We've got James calling in, James Llewellyn, staff and councillors will know James. He's currently in England, so he's probably had a hard night down in the pubs waiting for us. Am I wrong, James? Welcome.
You're completely wrong, but thank you anyway for the welcome.
Glad to hear it, James, and thank you for staying up late at night for us. The
Thank
floor
you.
is yours. You've got 8 minutes and a couple of minutes for questions, or at the maximum. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So hopefully you can see the screen and the slides. So Making Rail Work is basically a community proposal for reintroducing an interregional passenger rail link from Tauranga to Hamilton and then hopefully onwards to Auckland. Community proposals for rail services are actually quite unusual, and being in the UK, I've seen at the moment the issues we're having with rail strikes with the government and the unions and the private companies all arguing with each other about who is going to make the railways pay. Meanwhile, the community voice and the passenger voice is being ignored in all of that. So community involvement in rail as a principle, in my view, is very important. The Making Rail Work team is being, let me just, let's get the right slide up. So Making Rail Work team has been led by Katrina Ramage, who has written the report, which some of you hopefully will have seen and read. Myself, James Llewellyn, previously with the Regional Council, but now an independent consultant. And with me is Michael von Drogenbroek, who is very much in the rail technical space and also leads engagement with Kiwi Rail and Waka Kotahi. And in particular, a point we want to make is that both of those organisations are now much more open to discussions about interregional passenger rail. So this is a really great opportunity to take advantage of that. Making Rail Work, essentially, we are a bunch of business professionals and residents, and we fundamentally believe that rail connectivity is very, very important to New Zealand's future economy, social and economic development and sustainability. And we're presenting on the basis that we want to see investigations into regional passenger rail taken forward. We also have various members, including Paul Clark, who is a former United Kingdom Transport Minister and someone who is very knowledgeable in this particular area. We also have youth representatives, and also we're working with New Zealand Cooperative CEO, local and national politicians. And the point we're making is that cooperatives as a service model are not only appropriate for rail, but are also being used across other policy areas, including education, housing and development. Recently, the Transport and Infrastructure Select Committee has announced an inquiry into the future of interregional passenger rail. And again, this is a great opportunity to put the case forward for future investigation and potentially investment. The terms of reference I've outlined in the box below. I'll just pick out 3 really key points. The first is to actually investigate the possibilities and viability of passenger rail in underserved communities. Those with prior rail links, which of course include Tauranga, where those have been disestablished, and advocating for improved rail links. And I think our key point is more advocacy and leadership in this area is required. The terms of reference also look at gaining insights into viability of the passenger rail sitting alongside Kiwi Rail's freight network. Now, it's really important to emphasise we don't underestimate the technical, financial and economic challenges of making an interregional passenger rail service fit for purpose and ensuring that the important freight services are not disadvantaged by the inclusion of interregional passenger rail. The bottom point is also really important, looking at specific areas, including Tauranga. The Select Committee are well aware of the Making Rail report and have referenced it specifically in these terms of reference. So there's an opportunity here for Tauranga and the Bay of Plenty to step up and show that leadership in the interregional passenger rail space, and hopefully a submission to the Select Committee will follow. In terms of comments on the RPTP itself, those are really in three main sections. The RPTP policy, we fully support the draft as is expressed in the document, but what we would like to see are clear actions and resources associated with implementation. We'd like a clear pathway of feasibility, business case work, and if appropriate, design and implementation activity. And as I say, the Regional Council being given the opportunity to take a much more proactive role in engaging with the rail sector, KiwiRail and Waka Kotahi in particular. In terms of the cooperative model itself, we would be very welcoming of the RPTP formally acknowledging the community aspirations to establish a cooperative for passenger rail services between Tauranga and Hamilton. And ideally, we would like a new policy in the RPTP, which, amongst other things, would outline in principle support from the Regional Council for investigation and establishment potentially of an interregional rail service, commitment to participate in the cooperative itself if feasibility and viability is established, funding for business case work in the next regional land transport plan, and also agreement to provide in-kind staff resource from the regional transport planning team. I would emphasise that I would not want the existing priorities to be compromised by that. So, we'd be looking for more resource, hopefully, for the team to be able to participate in that process. And the final area is around leadership. So we're looking for Regional Council and indeed all of the councils in the Bay of Plenty to provide that promotion of passenger rail, but both at the political and the senior officer level. The Waikato region really has led the way with Te Huia, and as a result, not only has a rail service, but is looking to improve that and getting a lot of support from government to do so. Well, Waikato are very critical to this because, of course, any interregional service would, at the very least, end up in that part of the world. And so working more closely with them to promote those passenger rail improvements will be great. And also having a Bay of Plenty regional passenger rail strategy in the RLTP. As I mentioned in the point before, but worth emphasising again, that next RLTP should really outline funding proposals for business case work to take forward interregional passenger rail. And perhaps most critically, the opportunities with various strategic plans and the future regional spatial strategy should be looking at the policies, plans and delivery around things like clustering development in passenger stations. We have a really good plan for Tauranga City Centre, which has had a lot of coverage in the press. But what is missing at the moment is the passenger rail element of that. We have business cases going on looking at potential locations for public transport interchanges. Wouldn't it be great to integrate those with a passenger rail service? And other people have talked about ferries as well. So those really are our main points, and we're very happy to take any further questions. I will hand over to Michael if he's got any other points that he thinks I've missed or wants further re-emphasisation. We've got a quick opportunity to do that. Otherwise, happy to take questions.
I'll just add very briefly, the Tauranga rail corridor, as you well know, is quite challenged at the moment, heading to the west through the Kaimai Tunnel due to congestion. So there's a number of projects that are being identified in the National Rail Plan to relieve congestion, including additional work around crossing loops and passing loops. And also getting through the congested area of Hamilton needs to be addressed. So what we're really saying there is that we need to get in now and engage with the particular parties, including KiwiRail and NZTA, to ensure that the work that's done to enhance the freight capacity includes future-proofing for passenger rail services. So timing is relatively critical, and the inquiry presents us the opportunity to make a submission in that regard. And in recent discussions this week with KiwiRail and previously, they very much support Bay of Plenty becoming involved in doing that. So they're ready and waiting to do submissions in the same way that Waikato has been doing up until now. So with that, I'll pass back over to James.
Thank you. So
We're up
happy
to
to take
9
any
minutes,
questions.
James.
That's it. All good, all done. Any questions? Happy to take
We've
them.
got 2 questions, Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Neves.
Yeah, hi James, lovely to see
Hi.
you again. I haven't got a question of you, but I've got a question directed to staff, please. Can we please have information related to the Transport and Infrastructure Select Committee processes, please? So we understand what's going on and what the timeframes are for that. Would that be possible?
They've taken notes of that and I'll get back to you. Councillor Neves.
Thank you, James. Great to see you. And thank you for this presentation. Obviously, a lot of really enthusiastic people are working with you too. 2 questions. One is, can you quickly tell me how your cooperative model works?
I'll do my best. Essentially, a co-op is an organisation which is made up of members who pay a fee to join, and then the model works essentially sharing responsibility for developing strategy. Every member has a say in how the cooperative works. So we don't have one organisation, be it a government, be it a commercial organisation or trade unions, but all of those people can be involved working together to develop a service proposal. At the moment, what we have, certainly in the UK, is a very adversarial approach where all of those parties have different interests. They're not in the same organisation. A co-op would bring not only them together, but community organisations, councils, anyone with an interest in rail. Now, the next phase work is to explore the feasibility of that in detail, because I'm sure there are a lot of questions about how on earth it works. And the point is, at the moment, we need to understand that much better. But the cooperative model is relatively clear. It is democratic. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a contribution.
Right, so it's more about a cooperative of people planning the service as opposed to delivering the service.
It could be both. And this is the point of the feasibility study, is what is appropriate for a cooperative to do versus not do. We don't have any firm views. What we believe is the co-op model should be explored in its entirety.
Excellent. And my second question, sorry, is about carbon reduction. Electrification of the rail network. What are your views on that?
I'll let Michael answer that one.
Yeah, electrification of the rail network we see as a long-term priority. Currently, KiwiRail are developing a business case for electrification extension from Te Rapa to Palmerston North, in terms of, Te Rapa to Pukekohe, to complete the electrification from Auckland basically to Palmerston North. That's an indicative business case. Moving east towards Tauranga through the Kaimai Tunnel longer term is quite important, particularly as a result of the Kaimai Tunnel. The issues in the Kaimai Tunnel relate to congestions and the build-up of fumes over time as you put more trains on. But in the interim, there's other possibilities to have what they call bi-mode trains, which basically run under overhead when there's wire available, and then they can run under battery or some other type of fuel cell where there's no electrification available. So there are flexibilities and pathways towards that deliverable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, the 2 of you. We've run out of time. So we'll just call it there. James, you can go and have a little sleep and we'll go and have our lunch. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
Thank you both.
Thank you
both, and nice to see you again, James. And
Yeah.
I'll look forward to seeing you back in New Zealand soon, I'm sure.